Hello, Elder Smith here. Now today I would like us to continue where we left off in Genesis, starting in the first verse of chapter 32. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's host." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, "Thus shall ye speak unto my lord Esau. Thy servant Jacob saith thus, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. I have oxen and asses and flocks and men servants and women servants. And I have sent to tell my Lord that I may find grace in thy sight." Now, in case a lot of you don't know, as you know, if you remember in the previous videos, Jacob and Esau had some friction between each other. Jacob kind of cornered Esau to where Esau sold his birthright. Well, I wouldn't say cornered, but would give him food in place of his birthright. But then Jacob stole his blessing that Isaac was going to give to Esau. And by that time, Esau wanted to kill Jacob. And then Jacob took off and ran, and God was with Jacob this whole time. Well, now he's about to meet up with Esau, but throughout all these times right here, these events, these experiences, Jacob's relationship with God had changed him to the point where he's humbling himself. He's calling his brother Esau Lord. Now, if you don't know the meaning of that word, the word Lord means master. By doing that, he is humbling himself to his brother. He's in his own heart. He's ranking his brother above himself. He wants there to be peace with him and his brother. And he is truly, that's why he's returning. He knows he's putting his own life at risk. He knows there's a chance that Esau may still want to kill him. But he's showing love, respect, and humility to his brother, whom he did these things in the past to. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him." Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks, and the herds, and the camels, into 2 bands. And he said, "If Esau come to the one company and smite it, then the other company which is left shall escape." And Jacob said, "O God of my father Abraham, and the God of my father Isaac, the Lord which sayest unto me, Return unto thy country and unto thy kindred, and I will deal with thee. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies, and of all the truth which thou hast showed unto thy servant. For with my staff I have passed over this Jordan, and now am become 2 bands." Now, as Jacob's praying to God, he's acknowledging all the blessings and mercies God has given to him over these years. But he also is recognizing his own sin, his own faults, his own flaws. That's why he said in the prayer that he isn't worthy of even the least of these mercies. That's one of the best things you can do when praying to God. Not only acknowledging that God is God, not only asking God for help in times of need, but also to acknowledge that he has in fact blessed you, he has shown you mercy, and that none of us are worthy of even the least of these mercies. We are not worthy of the least of these blessings. And yet, here we are, with God loving us, showing mercy unto us, and blessing us, just as he loved and blessed and showed mercy unto Jacob. But now he's continuing with the prayer. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me, and the mother with the children. And thou sayest, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for a multitude. He's acknowledging the promise that God made him years back. So he's saying by doing that, he believes that God will bless him. He will deliver him from any of these dangers that are come up ahead, because if he is to have children, and his children are to be these descendants that are his family is supposed to greatly multiply to be as the stars of the sky and the sand of the sea, to where they cannot be numbered, then surely that means no harm would come unto him and his family. But he's also showing his faith by asking God for help. By doing that, that's an acknowledgement that if he is delivered from these troubling times, if there are troubling times ahead for him, that it is because God is helping him. God is the one that is delivering him, and no one else. And he lodged there that same night, and took of that which came to his hand a present for Esau, his brother, 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milk camels, and with their colts 40 kine, and 10 bulls, and 20 she-asses, and 10 foals. And he delivered them into the hand of his servants, every drove by themselves, and said unto his servants, Pass over before me, and put a space betwixt drove and drove. And he commanded the foremost, saying, When Esau my brother meeteth thee, and asketh, saying, Whose art thou? And whither goest thou? And whose are these before thee? Then thou shalt say, They be thy servant Jacob's. It is a present sent unto my lord Esau. Behold, also he is behind us. And so commanded he the second and the third, and all that followed the drove, saying, On this manner shall ye speak unto Esau, when ye find him. So even now, as he is afraid, he has prepared a gift for his brother as a way of making a peace offering, showing him that Jacob isn't returning to him out of mischief, but out of the commandment of God and loving and kindness. And so commanded he the second and third that followed, and the drove, saying, On this manner shall ye speak unto Esau when ye find him. And say ye moreover, Behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us, for he said, I will appease him with the present that goeth before me, and afterward I will see his face, peradventure he will accept of me. So went the present over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company. And he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 women servants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford, Jabbok. And he took them, and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. And Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. So, if you're not familiar with this story, what's happening now is Jacob's alone. He sent his servants on ahead of him, and his wives and his children. So as he's there at night, suddenly a man comes out of nowhere and starts physically wrestling with him. Let's see. A man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. So it means that they wrestled all night until the sun was starting to come up. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, and as he wrestled with him. So the man, as they wrestled, and as the night was coming to an end, this stranger, this man that Jacob is wrestling with, just placed his hand on Jacob's thigh, and now his thigh is out of joint. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaketh." And he said, "I will not let thee go, except thou bless me." You see, Jacob's starting to recognize in his heart who this man is, and that it's not really a man he's wrestling with. It's God. God. That's why all he had to do was touch Jacob's thigh, and it went out of joint. That's not to say that God was struggling with Jacob. Obviously, God was holding back, because you're talking about a being with infinite power that doesn't even need to do anything to win this fight. But there's a physical wrestling because of what it represents. You see, we who are God's elect, we tend to wrestle with God, especially before God touches our hearts. We tend to go out in the world to live life of our own accord, of our own desires. We are wrestling against the one who has an everlasting love for us. Now, when God touched Jacob's thigh and it went out of joint, that represents God touching our heart. How does it? Because when you're out of joint over in your thigh or your leg, you tend to walk with a limp. You never walk the same ever again. Just like when God touches your heart, you never walk through life the same ever again, because you're walking through life with a desire that was never there before. You're walking, and your actions reflect that, just as how Jacob will walk for the rest of his life will reflect this. And because Jacob recognized that this was God, when God said, "Let me go, for the day breaketh," he said, "Not so, except that you bless me first." What that represents is, once God touches our hearts, we desire for God to bless us. We're acknowledging that we need God in our lives, that without God, we have nothing. We are less than nothing. But with God, we are well cared for. We are well provided. And if we have anything that's good whatsoever, it's because God has blessed us with it. We need His blessings. And he said unto him, "What is thy name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, "Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, for as a prince hast thou power with God and with men, and hast prevailed." And Jacob asked him and said, "Tell me, I pray thee, thy name." And he said, "Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name?" And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose up upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel eat not of the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh and the sinew that shrank. So the whole Jacob wrestling with God represents every single one of us. The us before God touches our heart, the us during the time when he's touching our hearts, and the us afterward. Yes, Jacob, this was meant also because this is the setup, the country of Israel, which won't come for another few hundred years. But the fact of the matter is, Israel is also a foreshadow of the church of the New Testament and our relationship with God. And if God has touched your heart, and you'll know if he touched your heart because if you believe in God, if you have a desire to follow after him in his ways, he's touched your heart. And if he touched your heart, you're one of his. But it also means there was a point when you wrestled with him, and there is a point now where you're walking through life in a way that you weren't walking before. You're walking with God as a new creature made in Christ. And that shall be all for today. Remember the study, the show thyself approved, rightfully dividing the word. Put on the whole armor of God and fight the good fight.